In California, an avalanche rips down the side of a mountain at Palisades Tahoe Resort.
The Placer County Sheriff's Office confirms one skier has died from the incident. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Senator Amy Marcos accuses House Speaker Martin Romualdez of manipulating the Chacha initiative for political gain. A Chinese vessel shadows two Philippine supply vessels en route to the Kalayaan group of islands. Deadly riots break out in Papua New Guinea, claiming 15 lives. The United States braves fierce weather as 5 storm-related deaths have been recorded. And after dominating the Golden Globes, Oppenheimer leads the nominations at the Screen Actors Guild Awards.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
España,
Paris, France.
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.
London Bureau, Papua New Guinea,
In New York, New York.
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila. Mata ng Agila.
Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected, on point.
Senator Maria Imelda, or Amy Marcos, has accused House Speaker Martin Romualdez of orchestrating efforts to gather signatures for a people's initiative aimed at amending the Constitution.
Sinabi na nga ni Secretary Roque, itago natin sa pangalan ni Speaker Martin Romualdez, na yun nga, nanggagaling sa liderato ng Kongreso. Ano bang pakay nila? Hindi
Senator Amy disclosed that a 100 peso payoff per signature was offered in this initiative, coupled with an alleged promise of 20 million pesos worth of projects for each district, providing 20,000 signatures. She characterized the push for the People's Initiative as an aggressive move and labeled it as a power grab. Senator Amy asserted that the true objective of the People's Initiative is not to foster economic growth through constitutional amendments, but to secure victory in the presidential seat in 2028. She pointed to the inclusion of 14 billion pesos in the 2024 national budget under COMELEC, the expenditures on advertisements for charter change, and an intensified campaign against potential contenders in the 2028 presidential elections.
Kasi ang sinasabi lagi, economic provisions, kinakailangan daw paltan sa ating konstitusyon dahil wala daw papasok na investment. Hindi naman totoo, para ating binibida na bilyon-bilyon yung pledges at bumabiyahe si Presidente, minamarket ng Pilipinas. Anong sinasabi na walang pinapasok? Higit sa lahat, alin ba talaga ang papaltan? Kung economic provisions, ituro nila, ilista nila saan ba yun?
Senator Amy highlighted existing legislation facilitating foreign investments, such as the Telecommunications Law, Retail Trade Act, and Foreign Service Law passed by Congress.
The Commission on Elections will reopen voter registration for the 2025 midterm polls on February 12. COMELEC Chairperson George Erwin Garcia said the registration will run until September 30, 2024. The poll body also reminded overseas voters to sign up for the 2025 elections, which started last December 9, 2023. COMELEC has also ratified the use of internet voting for qualified overseas absentee voters, and it will begin by April 2025.
The World Bank says at 5.8% growth, the Philippines remains one of the fastest growing East Asia and Pacific economies this 2024. Through the said percentage fell short of the Marcos administration's 6.5 to 7.5% target for this year. The World Bank says it estimated economic growth is still the highest among the 23 East Asia and Pacific emerging markets and developing countries. The latest global economic prospects report also projects the Philippine economy to remain unchanged at 5.8% in 2025, but it says that Manila's economy will grow faster than China, Thailand, and Indonesia next year.
The Bureau of Plant Industry has reported that at least 18,463 metric tons of imported rice from Vietnam, Thailand, and Pakistan have arrived in the Philippines. Among those imports, the majority came from Vietnam at 11,423 metric tons, followed by Thailand with 6,500 metric tons and Pakistan at 540 metric tons. In 2023, the total imported rice arrival reached 3.567 million metric tons, representing a 7% decrease compared to the total importation in 2022, which amounted to 3.826 million metric tons. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture has indicated that the upward trend in the retail price of rice is likely to continue due to the high cost of grains in the international market. In monitored Metro Manila markets, the retail prices for various types of rice were observed as follows. Local regular milled rice at 53 pesos per kilo, local well-milled rice at 55 pesos per kilo, local premium rice at 62, and local special rice at 68 pesos per kilo. For imported well-milled rice, the price is at 58 pesos per kilo, while imported premium rice is 62 pesos per kilo. Imported special rice is at 65 pesos per kilo.
The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, recently reported the presence of volcanic smog, also known as VOG, in towns surrounding the Taal volcano. This occurrence follows a notable increase in sulfur dioxide emissions. VOG has been specifically observed in Lemery as well as parts of Agoncillo and Laurel. This phenomenon is attributed to the monitored wind speed of 2 to 4 meters per second, which has led to the accumulation of gases in these areas. Furthermore, PHIVOLCS has noted the upwelling of hot volcanic fluids in the main crater lake, resulting in the generation of plumes reaching heights of 1,500 to 2,400 meters. The Institute has emphasized that the presence of VOG in the coming days will be contingent upon the prevailing wind conditions in the vicinity of the volcano. Meanwhile, sulfur dioxide emissions of 10,933 tons per day have also been recorded, indicating an upward trend since December with an average of 10,000 tons per day. On January 4th, these emissions reached a record high of about 12,000 tons, signaling a concerning escalation in volcanic activity.
The Supreme Court of the Philippines has ordered the stoppage of activities that convert the portion of the mountain province into vegetable farms, saying such acts cause irreparable damage to the forest zone. In its 22-page decision, the Supreme Court adjunked the consolidated petition for review on certiorari that challenged the ruling of the Court of Appeals, which affirmed the regional trial court's grant of environmental relief to Mario Timario and his companions. The Supreme Court directed the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, to prevent the petitioners from engaging in illegal activities such as cutting of streets, kaingin, earth moving, and using fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, and other substances in the area. It also ordered the DENR to guard and patrol the areas to prevent further illegal and destructive activities and cause the apprehension of all violators.
The National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, or NGCP, insisted that after the unplanned outage of major plants in Panay Island, the transmission system remained normal and stable during the first 2 hours of the blackout on January 2. The Senate Committee on Energy argued that the condition was no longer normal since the power line stripped. The committee said the NGCP should have investigated the problem and addressed it. However, the NGCP explained that under the rules of the Philippine Grid Code, during these normal conditions, their officials are prevented from taking manual actions. The NGCP also insisted that the stability of the grid refers to its ability to recover after an event or disturbance.
The Philippine government is set to implement the Free Trade Agreement or FTA between Manila and Seoul in the first half of 2024. Department of Trade and Industry Undersecretary Seferino Rodolfo said the implementation will be 9 months after the agreement is signed in September 2023. The Department of Foreign Affairs previously said that the agreement would become a treaty, subject to ratification by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and the legislative branch. Meanwhile, DTI Undersecretary Alan Jepti, who is the country's lead negotiator for FTAs, disclosed that the Senate's approval of the two countries' free trade agreement won't last compared to the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. In a statement, the DTI Undersecretary said, and I quote, "In a bilateral FTA, the subject matters that are covered are very limited compared to RCEP. So basically, the focus really is in trade in goods and, of course, trade facilitation rules. No services, no investment. So it has no other areas like e-commerce, for example. So it's more simple. So basically, what we are targeting here is enhancing the market access."
Two ships of the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, were reportedly shadowed by a Chinese vessel during a rotation and resupply mission to the outposts in the Kalayaan group of islands in the West Philippine Sea from January 3rd to the 9th. The PCG vessels, BRP Cabra and BRP Sindangan, successfully delivered essential supplies to personnel stationed in outposts in Kalayaan, specifically on Lawak Island, Panata Island, and Pag-asa Island. Although no further details were provided regarding the shadowing incident, it has been confirmed that the PCG vessels safely returned to the port of Buliluyan in Bataraza, Palawan. Meanwhile, Coast Guard District Palawan Captain Dennis Labay commended the personnel for their dedication to duty, particularly for actively serving in the West Philippine Sea during the holiday season.
The United States has confirmed the presence of a commercial tanker at Subic Bay, tasked with transporting clean fuel from Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, to a local storage facility. According to the U.S. Embassy spokesperson, Kanishka Gangkopadhyay, this transfer forms part of a series of shipments of safe, clean fuel from the Red Hill facility to various locations in the Pacific. Gangkopadhyay emphasized that all arrangements for the transfer and storage of the fuel were conducted through established logistics contracts with Philippine commercial entities, following proper channels. In response, Senator Amy Marcos has called for an explanation from the government regarding the transfer of 39 million gallons of U.S. fuel to Subic Bay. She expressed concern over the pre-positioning of military supplies in the country, particularly as tensions escalate in the region. The senator characterized this transfer as the third instance of what she referred to as Washington's attempts to deprive the Filipino people of their right to information. Coming up, widespread rioting and looting plague the nation of Papua New Guinea. The United States and United Kingdom are warning of possible military action against Houthi rebels. And the two-day public hearing in South Africa's genocide case against Israel begins today. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
Kalmahan mo lang, ha? Baka mamaya maglulupasay ka pa. Tara, pag-usapan natin.
Yan si Irish Liberica, ang panganay na anak ni Don Julio Liberica.
Ilayo niyo sa akin to. Ilayo niyo.
Hindi na yun nakapag-asawa. Ayan naman si Chino Liberica. Ang bunsong anak ko, ano-anong racket ang pinasok.
Talagang gipit na gipit lang ako eh. Nakabugbugin ako nung pinagkakautangan ko eh.
Ayan naman si Mac Liberica, panganay sa pangalawang asawa ni Don Julio.
Itigil ang libeng! Itigil!
Hindi.
Itigil!
Hindi.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Papua New Guinea or PNG's James Marape has vowed to take decisive action against lawlessness following the deadly riots in the capital city, which resulted in the loss of 15 lives. The Port Moresby violence was sparked by protests led by a group comprising soldiers, police officers, and prison guards against the government. Footage depicted looters entering stores through shattered glass windows, hastily seizing stolen goods and stashing them into cardboard boxes, shopping trolleys, and plastic buckets. PNG's Police Commissioner David Manning confirmed that at least 15 individuals lost their lives during this unrest, while the largest local hospital reportedly treated 25 people for gunshot wounds and 6 other individuals for injuries caused by bush knives. Prime Minister Marape publicly expressed his apologies to the nation, emphasizing that such outbreaks of lawlessness would not be condoned.
You and me will come and go. Ill-disciplined police, ill-disciplined defense, ill-disciplined correctional services is not allowed. And we will look into the entire structure. The entire police leadership will be put under the spotlight. The entire defense leadership is put under the spotlight. The entire treasury leadership is put under the spotlight.
A festering pay dispute involving Papua New Guinea security forces sparked angry protests on Wednesday in the capital. An angry crowd torched a police car outside the Prime Minister's office. The protest began peacefully Wednesday morning as soldiers, police officers, and prison staff rallied after noticing their pay had been docked without explanation. But by afternoon, pockets of unrest had spread through the capital of Port Moresby. Video clips on social media show crowds looting shops and police scrambling to restore order. Crowds tried to smash a chain on a tall security gate outside the Prime Minister's office before eventually tearing it off its rails. They then unsuccessfully tried setting fire to a guard post before eventually torching a white police car parked outside the compound. While security forces started the demonstrations, it is unclear if they are responsible for the ensuing turmoil. An AFP correspondent based in Port Moresby says a mix of police, soldiers, and civilians appeared to be involved. The government says the pay deductions are the result of an unintended glitch and has promised to fix it promptly.
An ASEAN Special Envoy has arrived in Myanmar to meet its junta chief with the regional bloc seeking to find a diplomatic solution to the country's conflict. Myanmar's junta chief Min Aung Hlaing welcomed Alun Keo Kitikhoun in Nai Pitau as the two discussed efforts of the government to ensure peace and stability. In the long run, ASEAN has repeatedly urged Myanmar's ruling military council to stop hostilities and impose the bloc's 5-point consensus. The junta, however, demanded its 5-point roadmap focus on pandemic recovery and setting its own poll body to organize a new election once a state of emergency ends. In 2021, Myanmar's junta seized power from the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Myanmar's local monitoring group estimated that more than 1,600 people have been killed while over 12,000 arrested in a military crackdown since the coup.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has visited a greenhouse complex in Anadyr. The said project was spearheaded by one family. Putin inspected the vegetables, seedlings, and compartments. He praised the project heads for being able to grow vegetables in the permafrost conditions of the Chukotka region. He talked to the residents and met with the governor of Anadyr city. Analysts say Putin may be in full presidential campaign mode as he will inspect more greenhouse complexes this year.
Agents of the Russian Federal Customs Service, or FTS, seized a shipment of cocaine weighing over a metric ton. Initial reports said the drug was hidden in a cargo container that had been brought from Nicaragua to the port of St. Petersburg. A total of 1,000 bricks of pressed white powder, which lab tests confirmed as cocaine, were estimated to be worth 8 billion rubles, or $89.6 million on the black market.
Two Russian missiles struck a hotel in the center of Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, injuring 11 people. Pictures posted online showed many of the windows blown out and balconies destroyed, with large piles of rubble in the street below as emergency teams made their way through gaping holes in the facade to sift through the damage inside. Kharkiv Governor Ole Sinohobov said the strike that happened at about 10:30 p.m. local time involved S-300 missiles in the city's Kyiv district. Alexander Filchakov, head of the Kharkiv prosecutor's office, said that 23 guests and 8 staff were in the hotel when the missiles struck. The Russian Defense Ministry did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia attacked a United Nations helicopter that made an emergency landing in rebel-held territory, resulting in the death of 1 passenger and the abduction of 5 others. The helicopter, carrying 6 foreigners and 1 Somali national, had landed in Xindiere village due to engine failure. Among the 7 individuals on board, 1 of them was shot dead while attempting to escape, and another is currently missing. UN spokesperson Stefan Duyare confirmed the event, indicating that response efforts are underway and the organization is fully engaged in addressing the situation. Al-Shabaab's increased attacks on Somali military bases follow their loss of control in some rural areas due to a recent military offensive prompted by the Somali president's call for a total war against the militant group.
Peru has deployed special police forces along the border with Ecuador. This is in response to the security crisis Ecuador is dealing with. Emi Capilita Roja has the details.
At this border between Peru and Ecuador, police are checking people crossing the international bridge and allow entry only to Peruvians and Ecuadorians. Venezuelans and other nationalities can only enter through the border checkpoint. This stepped-up security comes after the Ecuadorian government and drug mafias declared war on each other, leaving residents in fear. The government declared a state of emergency along the entire northern border to prevent any spillover of the violence in Ecuador. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa says his country is in a state of war against drug cartels. The cartels have carried out a wave of kidnappings and deadly attacks in response to government crackdowns. Hundreds of soldiers patrolled near deserted streets in Ecuador's capital, where residents were gripped by fear over a surge of violence that has prompted alarm abroad. The small South American country has been plunged into crisis after years of growing control by transnational cartels that use its ports to ship cocaine to the United States and Europe. Emi Capilita Roja for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie drops out of the race for the United States Republican presidential nomination. Christie's dropping out deprives the contest of its most vocal critic by far, of front-runner Donald Trump. He says that if there comes a point in time in the race where he cannot see the goal of winning, then he will get out.
And it's clear to me tonight that there isn't a path for me to win the nomination, which is why I'm suspending my campaign tonight for President of the United States. I know, and I can see it from some of the faces here, that I'm disappointing some people by doing this. People who believe in our message and believe in what we've been doing. I also know, though, it's the right thing for me to do. Because I want to promise you this. I am going to make sure that in no way do I enable Donald Trump to ever be president of the United States again. And that's more important than my own personal ambition.
United States President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, surprised House Republicans by showing up at a hearing that debated his culpability for contempt charges. Hunter showed up with his lawyers and caused dismay among the Republicans when he left after 10 minutes. The president's son did answer at least one question about his dad's role in his foreign dealings. Hunter was asked why he put Joe Biden, who was the vice president, on the speakerphone during his approximately 20 business meetings. Hunter answered rhetorically, "If he called you, would you answer the phone?" Devon Archer, Hunter's former business partner, previously testified that Hunter often used those calls to impress foreign associates. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Hunter can make his own decisions on how to respond to the Congress hearing.
Here's what I'll say, and I've said this many times before. Hunter, as you all know, is a private citizen. He's not a member of this White House. He makes his own decisions, like he did today, about how to respond to Congress.
Away from the vehicle. Away from the vehicle, sir.
The United Kingdom and the United States have indicated their readiness to potentially undertake military action against Yemen's Houthi rebels following their successful defense against the largest attack on Red Sea shipping to date. The Iran-backed Houthi group launched a significant onslaught with carrier-based jets and warships, intercepting and shooting down a total of 21 drones and missiles on Tuesday night. Warplanes from the aircraft carrier USS Dwight D. Eisenhower and 4 combined destroyers from the U.S. and the U.K. resulted in the interception of 18 drones, 2 cruise missiles, and 1 ballistic missile. Fortunately, no injuries or damage were reported as a result of the incident. In response to this escalation, the UN Security Council swiftly passed a resolution condemning the Houthi attacks and calling for an immediate cessation of hostilities. The resolution also endorsed the right of UN member states to defend their vessels against such attacks. Following the UN Security Council's resolution, Houthi spokesman Mohammed Ali al-Houthi derided the move as a mere political game, expressing scornful disregard for its significance.
Israel's prime minister says there are no plans to permanently occupy Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu's comments come a day after a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Anna Kui reports.
When the two met in Tel Aviv on Tuesday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Palestinian civilians must not be pressed to leave Gaza. In an English-language video posted on social media Wednesday, Netanyahu reaffirmed that Israel's intention is not to move people out of the region.
Israel has no intention of permanently occupying Gaza or displacing its civilian population. Israel is fighting Hamas terrorists, not the Palestinian population.
Netanyahu says Israel is trying to minimize civilian casualties, while Hamas is doing its utmost to maximize them by using Palestinian civilians as human shields.
Our goal is to rid Gaza of Hamas terrorists and free our hostages. Once this is achieved, Gaza can be demilitarized and de-radicalized, thereby creating a possibility for a better future for Israel and Palestinians alike.
The United Nations estimates nearly 2 million Gazans have been displaced inside the territory since the war erupted on October 7. Anna Kui from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The World Health Organization is pleading with Israel to grant it and other UN agencies access to deliver aid within the Gaza Strip. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the humanitarian situation is indescribable. Thomas Eyelikeness tells us more.
Clearly frustrated, Tedros told a news conference the WHO and its partners have the capability to provide aid, they have the supplies, but he says they are being blocked.
The barrier is access. We call on Israel to approve requests by WHO and other partners to deliver humanitarian aid.
Tedros says teams have had to cancel 6 planned missions to northern Gaza since December 26th because their requests have been rejected. The latest cancellations occurred yesterday. He also says assurances of safe passage have not been provided. Tedros says they continue to call for a ceasefire, but there doesn't seem to be the political will to make that happen.
Those with influence are not doing it. I mean, that's the situation. So it can It can happen. It's a matter of will.
And while decision makers dither on whether to call a halt to the fighting, conditions in Gaza continue to deteriorate. Just how bad is the situation?
People are standing in line for hours for a small amount of water, which may not be clean, or bread, which alone is not sufficiently nutritious. The lack of clean water and sanitation and overcrowded living conditions are creating the ideal environment for disease to spread.
Tedros says Gaza's health system is on its knees with only 15 hospitals even partially functioning. And for those trying to help the sick and injured, he says they're putting their lives on the line.
Now, the work of the health workers is impossible, and they're directly in the firing line.
This Sunday marks the 100th day of the war, and with no end in sight, no ceasefire on the horizon, the frustrations of those trying to provide aid will continue. Thomas I. Likeness from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The UN's International Court of Justice is hearing a case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, with the submission also calling for the court to issue an order for Israel to stop military operations in the region. The ICJ is the UN's top court, based in The Hague, where its rulings are theoretically legally binding on parties signed to the ICJ and the UN Charter.
Together with the forced displacement, Israel's conduct has been deliberately calculated to cause widespread hunger, dehydration, and starvation. Israel's campaign has pushed Gazans to the brink of famine. An unprecedented 93% of the population in Gaza is facing crisis levels of hunger.
As it stands, the ICJ is only allowed to deliver an opinion regarding the genocide allegations put forward by South Africa, as the case is not a criminal trial. However, their opinion could have a major impact on how the general masses see how the war plays out. Dutch police struggled to keep groups of Palestinian and Israeli supporters apart as tensions were flaring outside the ICJ's Peace Palace. Hundreds of people waving Palestinian flags gathered outside the ICJ, calling for a ceasefire, while Israeli supporters set up a screen showing images of some of the hostages still being held in Gaza. South Africa was first on deck to present their case, followed by Israel's defense to be presented the day after. In their opening statement, South Africa says Israel's actions were intended to bring about the destruction of a substantial part of the Palestinian national, racial, and ethnic group. Enumerating Israel's actions, including killing Palestinians in Gaza, causing them serious bodily and mental harm, and inflicting on them conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction. They also called for provisional measures to be implemented by the court as a matter of urgency, including that Israel cease all military activities in Gaza.
No armed attack on a state territory, no matter how serious, even an attack involving atrocity crimes, can provide any justification for or defense to breaches to the convention, whether as a matter of law or morality. Israel's response to the 7th of October 2023 attack has crossed this line and give rise to the breaches of the convention.
Israel has defended its actions in Gaza, saying it is responding to Hamas's deadly attacks. But South Africa's Justice Minister argues otherwise, saying no attack can provide justification for or defend breaches of the Genocide Convention. This statement is particularly weighted as Israel is a known signatory of the Genocide Convention of 1948, which defines genocide and commits states to prevent it.
We are also particularly mindful of Israel's institutionalized regime of discriminatory laws, policies and practices designed and maintained to establish domination, subjecting the Palestinian people to apartheid on both sides of the Green Line. Decades-long impunity for widespread and systematic human rights violations has emboldened Israel in its recurrence and intensification of international crimes in Palestine.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced plans to expand nuclear power to bolster UK's energy independence and meet carbon emission targets. The civil nuclear roadmap will be the biggest expansion of UK's nuclear power in 70 years. The said project includes exploring the construction of a major new power station. An investment of £300 million will be set aside to produce an advanced uranium fuel and smarter regulation. Taken together, the measures would quadruple UK nuclear power by 2050 to 24 gigawatts, sufficient to provide a quarter of the UK's electricity needs. Sunak said nuclear power is the perfect antidote to the energy challenges facing Britain, adding that nuclear is green, cheaper in the long term, and will ensure the UK's energy security.
The United States Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, approved the first spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. Despite warnings from some officials and investor advocates, the SEC approved 11 applications, including BlackRock, ARK Investments, 21 Shares, Fidelity, Invesco, and VanEck. Bitcoin enthusiasts lauded the approval, saying it is a game changer for the crypto industry. An analyst says the ETF approval has institutionalized or legitimized Bitcoin as an asset class.
Tech startup Humane has just laid off 4% of employees this week in a move that was described as a cost-cutting measure to those who were impacted. Employees were recently told by leadership the budgets would be lowered this year. The cuts, which numbered to about 10 people, come ahead of the 5-year-old startup shipping its first device. After a lot of hype and secrecy, Humane unveiled the AI pin to the world in November and began accepting pre-orders, with shipments planned to begin in March. Humane has raised over $200 million from various major figures of Silicon Valley, including OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. CEO Bethany Bonggiorno and her husband Imran Chowdhury started the company in 2019 after spending long careers at Apple. In a text message, Bonggiorno said that the cuts were not communicated as a layoff to those who were impacted, but instead a deceptively worded message that reads, and I quote, "It goes without saying that, like every company, we have a responsibility to remain prudent and proactive, ensuring we have the right roles, right people, and the right structure at every juncture." Up next, millions of Americans are bracing for more snow and punishingly low temperatures. Ecuador is gearing up for a government war on drug gangs. And artificial intelligence lab OpenAI launches a flagship store for tailor-made apps. Please don't go away. We've got more stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by
swaths of the United States are bracing for more snow and punishingly low temperatures as a fierce storm blasted the East Coast. At least 5 storm-related deaths have been recorded. Shen Kadusale has the details.
The bad weather has flooded homes and streets on the United States East Coast. The latest storm, already bringing precipitation to the west, is expected to tear across the country this week, bringing an Arctic blast to northern regions. It has prompted weather advisories or warnings in dozens of states from California to Maine. More than 400,000 customers didn't have power mid-morning Wednesday. That's down from nearly 900,000 customers nationwide left without power Tuesday evening. At least 5 storm-related deaths have been recorded, including an 81-year-old Alabama woman whose mobile home was reportedly struck by a tornado. The weather is having a heavy impact on flights, with more than 650 canceled and 1,300 delayed early Wednesday. Scientists say that as humanity continues to warm the planet by burning fossil fuels, weather patterns will become more unpredictable. Shen Kadusale from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
An avalanche at a California ski resort swooped 4 people and killed 1 as a major storm in the United States brought hail and gusty winds. Rescuers provided first aid to the surviving 3 skiers. Authorities report the avalanche occurred about 9:30 a.m., hitting skiers under the KT-22 lift. The Placer County Sheriff's Office said the avalanche debris field spanned about 150 feet wide, 450 feet long, and 10 feet deep. The Sheriff's Office identified the dead victim as 66-year-old Kenneth Kidd.
Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa has declared his country to be at war with drug gangs responsible for holding over 130 prison staff hostage, along with other acts of violence, including briefly capturing a TV station live on air.
Y me solidarizo también con las familias. Pero estamos en un estado de guerra. Estamos en un estado de guerra y no podemos ceder ante estos grupos terroristas.
The Ecuadorian Prison Service reported 139 guards and staff held hostage in jails, with unverified videos depicting apparent lynchings and killings of prison personnel. This unrest has resulted in at least 10 deaths, including police officers. Gunmen also attacked a TV station during a live broadcast, which fortunately was later subdued by police special forces. Disturbing footage showcases various attacks, including car bombings, the murder of police officers on the streets, and attempts to seize control of hospitals and a university in Guayaquil. In response to the escalating violence, President Noboa issued a decree designating nearly 24 gangs as terrorist groups. He authorized Ecuador's military to neutralize these criminal factions, emphasizing compliance with international humanitarian law.
Mi postura es que todos estos grupos terroristas son objetivos militares. Y si es que quieren resistirse, y si es que quieren hacer el alarde como hacen videos en Facebook, en WhatsApp, con rifles disparando al aire, que son los lobos, que son los estos, que son los de acá, bueno, pues sean valientes, peleen contra los militares.
In other news, nearly 200 animals were stranded and were facing hunger on the Serbian river island. The cows, calves, and horses also face the danger of cold as temperatures dropped. The animals got stuck on the island after water levels rose sharply last month. Serbian authorities brought over a fenced river raft to rescue the animals. Officials said it would take several trips to bring back all of the animals to safety.
Journalists and rights defenders concerned about press freedom demonstrated Wednesday outside a court of Tunis, the capital of Tunisia. The protest comes as the court released journalist Zid El Heni with a 6-month suspended sentence. Danica Lee has more.
Ziad El-Heni had been on trial for criticizing the Minister of Commerce during a radio broadcast. He had been arrested under a law punishing the use of telecommunication networks to insult others. That law has been introduced by Tunisian President Kais Saied after he centralized power in 2021. Protesting journalists say the country's citizens are in danger of no longer having access to information. They say journalists are not being allowed to inform citizens. 17 journalists currently face trial in Tunisia, according to local media. Many of them are being prosecuted under a law which punishes people for spreading false news with up to 10 years in prison. Heni is still facing another charge on which he is yet to be tried after comments he made in January 2023. Danica Lee from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Meta vows to shield teens from harmful content on Instagram and Facebook. The new content restrictions came after lawsuits from more than 40 states accused Meta of deceiving the public about the risks that its platforms pose to young people. Meta says within the next few weeks, it will automatically filter out harmful content, such as self-harm, graphic violence, and eating disorders from teen accounts on its social media platforms. The move will make it more difficult for teens to come across sensitive content when they use features like search and explore on Instagram.
OpenAI has launched its GPT store for users to share their custom chatbots. According to the tech firm, the GPT store is aimed at the expansion of the OpenAI ecosystem. Users subscribed on paid tiers, however, so far only have access to use and make custom GPTs. A revenue-sharing program with GPT creators is also set to start by the first quarter of 2024. The company has yet to share specifics on what the program looks like in practice. The GPT store will roll out to users of ChatGPT Plus and enterprise users, along with subscribers to a new tier called Team.
Coming right up. Hundreds of Elvis Presley impersonators paraded down the main streets of Australia. Victor Wembanyama records his first NBA triple-double in just 21 minutes. And 2024 is shaping up to be a monumental year for Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer. Catch the latest in sports and entertainment. Matanang Agila International will be back.
From a cloud kitchen, whipping up family heirloom recipes to a thriving business in a short time, Ilios Group Incorporated has evolved into a culinary sensation. Guided by its philosophy, dine at home, its party trays during the lockdown satisfied many palates and transformed dining tables in celebrating life despite the uncertainties.
Whatever you do, whether that be a financial decision, an operational decision, it always has to hinge on your core to bring value to other people and bring good intentions.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sunday 25.
Mga ka-Net 25, nakapag-New Year, New Me na ba ang lahat? Sa panibagong yugto ng ating buhay, patuloy ang Net 25 sa pagbabahagi ng kasiyahan, kaaliwan, tawanan, at mahalagang impormasyon sa inyo. Let's net together in 2024. Maligayang bagong taon mula sa Net 25.
Scientists from Kew Gardens have discovered new plants and fungi in the year 2023. Kew Kew Gardens is closed. About 3/4 of undescribed plants are threatened with extinction. Among Kew's discovery are the bright red orchid found in the summit of Mount Nok, a palm tree that grows underground in Borneo, a pair of trees growing beneath the Kalahari Sands in Angola, a violet-like flower from Thailand, and indigo-bearing plant from South Africa. Scientists say about 2,500 new species of plants and fungi are named every year.
Elvis impersonators strutted through Sydney's Central Station, boarding the Blue Suede Express in an annual excursion to honor the king of rock and roll. This unique train journey takes them from the city to the farming town of Parkes, home to the renowned Elvis Festival, attracting around 25,000 dedicated fans each year. Despite Elvis Presley never performing in Australia, let alone Parkes, impersonator Taz Funky Elvis Dimpsis expressed his eagerness to don his bright red jumpsuit, seizing any excuse to showcase his tribute.
Amazing that he's been gone for, 46 and a half years, and look at the, he thought he'd be forgotten. That's the thing, and you look at him, he's bigger than ever. It's fantastic. Right, he's back in the building. He's back in the building.
The first Elvis Festival in Parkes took place in 1993, initiated by local restaurant owners Bob and Ann Steele. Today, the town proudly embraces its title as the Elvis capital of Australia. The 5-day festival will feature competitions for the best Elvis lookalike, along with events such as Elvis poetry, art exhibitions, and numerous musical tributes.
Chef Ailatu Abdul Razak breaks a Guinness record of non-stop cooking after making meals for more than 227 hours. The Ghanaian chef proudly walked out of the hotel kitchen in Tamales City, giving a salute to the cheering crowd after putting an emotional end to the city's 10-day cook-a-thon. Chef Faila called it as a national assignment to finish the marathon and break the world record, stating that she was doing it for her country. During her attempt, various celebrities, politicians, and even the Ghanaian military extended their support, including Ghana's Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia. Faila wanted to make sure that her new record attempt would be very difficult for those who try to break it. She aims to dethrone the current record holder, Chef Alan Fisher from Ireland, who cooked for 119 hours and 57 minutes. Her team has sent the evidence to the Guinness World Records and are now waiting for the official confirmation of her accomplishment.
Super powerful computers fill a classroom in Northeast England. The new kit is part of a new esports school campus that has recently opened in the city of Sunderland, with the aim of boosting the country's virtual sports sector. From Europe, Ryan Florentino reports.
Tucked away down an unassuming street in central Sunderland, northeast England, in a room filled with super powerful computers, students are being trained to play video games at the highest level. The kit is part of a new campus that aims to boost the country's virtual sports sector in response to the global booming popularity of esports, professional level competitive gaming. That officially became recognized as a sport by the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, in 2017. Members and staff from the Sunderland College of Esports share their views of the industry. Let's listen in.
Here in the UK, one of the reasons we were set up is we recognised that there were some incredible orgs here, incredible talent here, but we could do more. And we are behind. You know, certainly if you look at where we place as a gaming industry, we're top 5 in the world. In esports, we need to work harder to do that.
Quite surreal seeing it, because every time you'd want to go to like an esports event or anything to do with esports, you'd have to travel down south to like London, to Nottingham, something like that, to be able to get any kind of experience like this. And just being able to, especially with the arena opening soon, being able to go to esports events right next to my home is just amazing, quite surreal.
Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I am Ryan Florentino for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Victor Wembanyama recorded the first triple-double of his career against the struggling Pistons team as he helped lead the Spurs past the Pistons 130-108. What's more surprising is that Wemby recorded the stat line of 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists in just 21 minutes of play. The game itself was not close, with the Spurs jumping out to a 31-19 first-quarter lead, and the Pistons never really challenging them after that. 8 San Antonio players scored in double figures, led by Keldon Johnson with 17 points and Devin Vassell with 16. Jalen Duren led the Pistons with 21.
Victor Wembanyama's got.
After dominating the Golden Globes, Oppenheimer leads the nominations at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Catherine Ortula has the scoop.
Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer leads the nominations at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, or SAG Awards. The biopic about the father of the atomic bomb, J. Robert Oppenheimer, bagged 4 nominations, with Barbie, American Fiction, and Killers of the Flower Moon landing with 3 each. Oppenheimer received a nod for outstanding performance by a cast. Cillian Murphy, who played the titular scientist, was nominated for Best Actor. Murphy's competition will be Bradley Cooper of Maestro, the holdover star Paul Giamatti, Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, and Colman Domingo for Rustin. Leonardo DiCaprio of Killers of the Flower Moon is a notable absence in the Best Actor category. For Oppenheimer, Robert Downey Jr. and Emily Blunt were nominated for their supporting roles. On the television side, Succession had a leading 5 nods for its final season. It was followed closely behind by Ted Lasso, The Bear, and The Last of Us, which earned 4 nominations each. Succession's Jeremy Strong was snubbed, but his co-stars Kieran Culkin, Sarah Snook, Brian Cox, and Matthew McFadyen are all nominated. The winners are voted for by SAG-AFTRA's membership of more than 119,000 actors, and the awards ceremony will take place February 24. Catherine Ortula for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
14-year-old phenom Alicia Parmisano is the first contestant to secure a spot in the girl group being formed through the South Korean reality competition Universe Ticket. Alicia was selected after reaching the P level, the highest ranking given to candidates in the show. The group, named Prism, will have 8 members and will debut under entertainment company FF. Still in the running to be part of the group are Filipina Jelly Danka and Filipino-Korean Jin Hyun-ju. Universe Ticket features singer and actress Kim Se-jung, singer Yoonha, and record producer Adora as judges.
It's Thursday, and to send you off, here's a quote from renowned author Charles Dickens. The sun himself is weak when he first rises and gathers strength and courage as the day gets on.
Now, are you more of a sunrise or a sunset type of person?
I'm more of a sunriser type.
Ooh, same here. I would
Sunrise.
actually wake up for a good sunrise. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing